Welcome back, everyone. Next, we have Myriad Uranium Corp. It trades on the OTCQB under the symbol MYRUF, and on the CSE under the symbol M, and on the FSE under the symbol C3Q. It's a uranium exploration company with an earnable 75% interest in the Copper Mountain Uranium Project in Wyoming. Please welcome its CEO, Thomas Lamb. Nice to see you, Tom. Welcome to the conference.
You too, Anna. Thanks. I'm really happy to be here. So, hi, everybody. Again, I'm Thomas Lamb, CEO of Myriad. I am going to walk you through our presentation, and I'm really excited to tell you about us. I think you'll see why. I think this is the best, and we are the best and most interesting uranium junior out there right now. We have the most torque potential, and we've also mitigated risks. So I think it's an exciting company for you to consider investing in. It's a picture of Wyoming. You can see it's beautiful there. This page is our legals. I will be making forward-looking statements in this presentation. And a second thing, I'll also be talking about uranium resources and potential. And I'm Canadian. This is a Canadian company. These are not National Instrument 43-101 numbers. These are not current numbers. These are historical numbers that were generated by Union Pacific Railway in the 1970s. So I have to say that. So uranium, why are we talking about uranium? Why is it so hot right now? Bit of background here. First of all, the primary reason is it is really efficient at generating electricity. As you can see on the left, it's 8,000 times more efficient generally than oil or coal. I thought you might be interested to see that it also releases less radiation than any other major energy source. I invite you to Google that and find out why. So even though uranium nuclear's reputation is, mixed because of the history, it's actually very safe. So what's going on right now? Uranium is currently a unique opportunity. It's the most exciting opportunity in the commodity space right now. I think it's one of the most exciting investment ideas in the world right now. This is your chance to make a lot of money. This only comes around every 10, 15, 20 years. It's happening right now. On the left, you can see a chart, maybe hard to see the details, but that was the last spike in the uranium price in around 2007. There's a company here that I mentioned on the right, Strathmore. It actually I picked it because it owned part of our license area. We own it all. This company owned part of it. Its shares went from $2 to $457 during that last spike. That is what happens in a uranium boom. That is why we're all here. And we're just at the beginning of this. And so exciting times are ahead, and I'll explain why. So, fasten your seatbelts, whether you invest in Myriad or you invest in another company or the sector. This sort of once every 15, 20 year period is upon us, and it's extremely exciting. Okay, so what have we got? And why do I think Myriad is the most exciting junior? And I really do believe it. First of all, we have huge upside potential. There are lots of other juniors. If you look at our comps, they're out there looking in Wyoming, Athabasca in central Canada, and then in West Africa. And they are doing what I would call chipping rocks. They're looking around, poking around, they're drilling some holes, they're looking for uranium. We actually have uranium. Now, strictly speaking, for securities law reasons in Canada, I'm not supposed to say we have it because it was found a long time ago, as opposed to identified recently. But we have a huge uranium resource. So we're different than the other juniors just for that reason. In Wyoming, our resources were delineated, found, and expanded on, measured by Union Pacific Railway, which I mentioned. And then they'd also planned to start mining our project in 1979. I'll get into those details in a little bit. we have two projects. So we have this Wyoming project, the Copper Mountain Uranium Project, and then another reason for really big blue sky potential, this is virtually unlimited, is our second project, which is in the Timmersoy Basin in Niger. The Timmersoy is one of the world's great uranium basins. We have a big project area there, well, there are 4 licenses, and they're very exciting. I look forward to telling you about them. Each of them, by the way, could stand alone in their own companies and be very strong public companies individually. Excuse me. We could divide this up, spin it out, and shareholders maybe will end up owning shares of 2 uranium companies instead of 1 in the future. Let's see. Now, I'm just going to go back to why the price of uranium is rising so fast. Now, some of you follow uranium and understand this already, but for those of you who don't, what's going on now? Why is it different this time? So the last time it spiked, 2007, the price dropped quickly afterwards. And the reason it spiked partly is there was a flood of one of the big uranium mines in Saskatchewan, and everybody panicked, and the price of uranium spiked. But it was brought down because there was still this megatons to megawatts program, which used weapons-grade uranium, decommissioned nuclear weapons, and then they downblended up that weapons-grade material and used it as fuel for nuclear reactors. Also, during the Cold War, everybody produced tons of uranium, so there was a lot of surplus. That's all gone. That's over. Megatons is over. Surplus is over. It's all been used up. And after the Fukushima accident, everybody worldwide is underinvested in new sources of uranium. So supply is very tight. And on top of it, uranium is difficult. On top of that, Kazakhstan, the world's big producer, and then Canada's next. Kazakhstan has issues. We can get into that later, maybe. What about demand? Demand is rising fast. People are building, Chinese, the rest of the world, building nuclear reactors like crazy. And buyers, interestingly, are price immune. The buyers of the fuel, they don't care what the price is usually. In general, it's because nuclear reactors are so expensive to build and run, and the fuel is just a tiny part of the cost. So, they don't care. So that's very interesting too. That's relevant. And climate change, everybody's agreed to shift to nuclear. You may not be aware, but it's happening a little bit quietly in some places, but nuclear is coming fast. And what about Wyoming? So our principal project, again, is in Wyoming. It is the center of the uranium world right now. I know other places have a lot of investment, Athabasca, Canada, Africa, Australia, et cetera. But Wyoming is the center, and that is because the U.S. wants to be independent of foreign sources now. Senator John Barrasso is leading this, very smart senator. So money and political support, investment pouring into Wyoming. It is the center. Historically, it's produced the vast majority of America's uranium. That's happening. Uranium price is skyrocketing. It's doubled in the last year to $106 a pound. U.S. is also building a strategic uranium reserve. They're stocking it. So there's a lot of buying happening and centered on Wyoming production. This is just a quick slide so you can see where we're located. We're almost in the center of Wyoming, and that arrow shows you that we're, in a hot spot. Those ovals are all big uranium projects. This is Copper Mountain itself on the right. Now, 5 weeks ago, this is what our license area looked like. It's now much larger. We're trying to put a blanket over everything we can, guided by the data that we have, because especially to the right there on the map, there are lots of former mines, known high-grade areas, and we're getting it all. So up until 1982, this area was owned by Union Pacific that I keep mentioning, and there has not been unified ownership of the area since. Now there is. That's us, along with our joint venture partner, Rush Rare Metals. As Anna mentioned, we have a 75% earnable interest. We do have a path to 100% ownership. Myriad does. So what was happening? Basically, back in the 1970s, why was Union Pacific so interested? Well, Copper Mountain had a lot of small and medium-sized uranium mines through the 1950s and 60s, height of the Cold War. Union Pacific went in there to understand that better. They discovered a lot of uranium, and they started pouring money and expertise into our area. They drilled 2,000 boreholes, plus or minus. They identified at least 6 deposits, and they found, and so some of you may not understand the scale here, but they found a lot of uranium. They estimated the potential of 2 out of those 6 deposits to be upwards of 63.8 million pounds. That would put us, if we reach that potential, as one of the largest, what would be one of the largest projects in Wyoming, uranium projects in Wyoming, maybe the biggest. Now, for the purposes of the mine they had planned, they estimated resources of between 15.7 and 30.1 million pounds, also very big in its own right. And with more exploration, numbers would go up from there. So how do we know this information? What's interesting is Union Pacific shut the project down in 1982 and everybody went home. They did that because of the 3 Mile Island accident in 1979. Uranium prices fell fast and uranium production in the United States basically ceased. So that's what happened back then. Everything, all the data got put into boxes and in paper form and just sat there. So what's beautiful about the story, it's a bit of an Indiana Jones type story. A co-founder of Myriad, Pete Smith, it's actual former CEO. He was driving through Wyoming months ago in the back roads, and he encountered a rancher in a pickup truck. They stopped, exchanged pleasantries, and the rancher said, "Hey, I know you're involved in Copper Mountain. Would you like to come over? I have some data, and you could have a cup of coffee, take a look at it." Pete went and looked at this data. It was a bit like Ark of the Covenant moment. Look at all this beautiful historic data. Before that, we didn't really know much about Copper Mountain, forgotten in the mists of time, as it were. Pete bought the data, almost like money on the table. It's a bit of negotiation, acquired the data. A month later, we drove to Wyoming in a truck and loaded all the data up, brought it back to Vancouver, started going through it. We're just still going through it. You can see this is what it looks like a little bit on the right there. There's a photo. It has revealed everything I just told you. I'm just going to go back and you can see it revealed Union Pacific spending 78 million US equivalent, 2,000 boreholes, all these deposits they found, the estimates of the amount of uranium in there. All this is new. This was not available to the authors of the technical report on Copper Mountain. It was authored about 10 months ago. That technical report said, go try to find some data or you're going to have to start from scratch. Well, we found the data. So what the data also tells us is there's potential for major discoveries at Copper Mountain. There's a lot of uranium in the background. In the granite itself has very high, almost mineable grades of granite, of uranium, pardon me, in the granite in the background. All that, when it gets mobilized by fluids, can turn into uranium deposits. Look at the quote on the right. Those are true experts. That's Jim Davis. He's the guy who actually ran Union Pacific's exploration program throughout the 1970s. And he's a member of our technical committee now. I'll let you look at that slide for a moment. That's my dog, Hugo. You can see running around Wyoming. So Copper Mountain has mining potential. It was going to be a mine. It would probably be a mine today, if not for the fall in uranium prices in 1980, precipitated partly by the 3 Mile Island accident. So the ore there at our project is excellent. It's really easy to leach. So you put it on a pad and you spray it with acid. This is a common technique to separate copper and gold and other things. So the ore is highly leachable and you get a recovery well into the 90s, 90, 95%. Also, the ore is maybe ISR amenable, in situ recovery amenable. That means that you can inject some fluids into the ground, mix with carbon dioxide, and pull uranium out the other end. It's a very cheap way of mining. The economics are excellent, and it's possible for our area. So here I want to tell you about our licenses in Niger, in West Africa. This is a nice map. It shows our licenses in orange and yellow. And you can see some details on the left about them. Effectively, we have 1,800 square kilometers in the Timor Basin in Niger. Timor, rich uranium basin. It has Africa's largest uranium deposit called MYRUF, that's owned by the French government. It has Africa's probably best uranium deposit. It's called DASA. That's owned by a Canadian company called Global Atomic. And we are right next to both of them. This is our northern license in Niger. And you can see MYRUF is only 8 kilometers to the south. So what's that, 5 miles? And we're on the same structure. And the structure is just drawn there. It's actually broader than that. That oval that you see with the dots in it, that is the French government's plan to drill our area, which they had to abort just after Fukushima. They had planned to drill that. Fukushima changed everything in the uranium space. Now we own it. We can explore it and look for maybe another MYRUF. That was the French government's plan. MYRUF has about $38 billion worth of uranium in it. If we can duplicate that to the north, that's obviously a big value for our company. So what's our go-forward plan? Our go-forward plan, by the way, the picture on the right is the Arrowhead mine in the center of our project area. The Arrowhead mine in the center of our project area. The go-forward plan is to increase acreage all around our Copper Mountain project in Wyoming. And this is to encompass formerly producing uranium mines, known areas of high grade, et cetera. We're going to acquire and generate additional data. And we have new techniques, new technology. We're very excited about that. We are going to do the work that you see on the left there. And we're also going to test for ISR, in situ recovery, amenability. If we do that, we have the economics of our project are excellent. And of course, we're going to monitor Niger, the situation in Niger. If things stabilize there, politically, we have another company making project that we can either spin out or create a huge amount of value from. Leadership, I'll just talk about myself briefly. Again, CEO. I've worked in Africa on and off for 11, 12 years. Former securities lawyer. I have built more than one junior mining company from scratch and had nice exits. Gold company called Gold Group. Most recently, M2 Cobalt I co-founded, and we sold to an offshoot of Glencore called Jervois that had a $2 billion value, and I was an executive for them. George Fundervalt, next, is our chief geologist. He's a true uranium specialist, world-class. Nelson Lam, CFO, no relation. We have a top-notch board. Di Cabo is a partner in international law firm, Cyril Amati, a banker. Tom Lee, a finance specialist out of Toronto. Rest of our leadership, these are all technical people. Fred Bonner, Canadian Geo. David Miller, an in situ recovery specialist who's worked for Orano, Areva, et cetera. These are our Niger specialists, Adamu Ousmane and Michael Kante. Ron Hallis, technical committee member, was COO of Global Atomic, our neighbor. And then Jim Davis has just joined our technical committee, and he ran Union Pacific's exploration program. All of that spending in the 1970s, he ran it. And he knows all about our Copper Mountain project in Wyoming. So what's coming up in terms of catalysts? If you're an investor, you choose to invest, you can expect some of these, maybe all of them. And they will each result, I believe, in a big re-rating of our company. First of all, market awareness. That's partly why I'm presenting here. As people understand our company, it will get revalued upwards, I think, potentially order of magnitude and beyond. Uranium prices rising fast. That is going to increase our value. U.S. government, U.S. Senate, House are set to ban imports of Russian fuel. That is going to result in a big spike in our potential value, everybody's value in the uranium space. What else are we going to do? Again, add data. Strategics are circling. There's M&A potential. If we bring our historic resource estimates current, if we increase our grades and volumes, we're going to be doing that through work. And I'll just skip down and just mention that we could make really big new discoveries at Copper Mountain and in Niger. You saw that our neighbor in Niger has $38 billion worth of uranium. That's 5 miles away. French government had planned to explore our area to duplicate that. It's possible. Cap table, 34 million shares out, 46% insider ownership. I personally am the second largest shareholder on the NOBO list. I invest every round. I'm a believer. These are some option details. You can look at our news releases to get the granular details of the option at Wyoming. These are some comps. I don't want to linger here too long because I want to honor the time. But we're at the bottom there. We have a $12.6 million market cap as of today. And these are just a few comps in Wyoming, 20 million, 35 million. Look at us, 2,000 drill holes, big resource, historic. And our comps just have exploration targets and they're poking around. Now they're good companies. They have really good shareholders, et cetera. But as we get the word out, I don't see why we shouldn't be worth a couple $100 million on a relative basis. Thank you very much. This is the end of the slideshow, or slide presentation. Please note my phone number if you can see it, and my email address. I really like to hear from shareholders. I'm happy to engage. Please contact me. Thank you very much, everybody.
Great job, Tom. We do have some questions for you. You mentioned it a little bit. I want you to talk some more specifically about the geopolitical situation we're in. What do you think the uranium price is headed? What direction? And tell us why.
Yeah, it's very interesting. If you're not a uranium specialist, it's easy to think about uranium as copper, gold, whatever. Some commodity, oil goes up and down. You cannot turn on more uranium production. Even Kazakhstan, the world's largest producer, has had to downgrade its forecast production by, I think, 15-20% recently. That's 6% of global production. And it just simply cannot. It wants to produce more. It can't. Uranium is difficult. Supply is constrained. And demand, it just keeps going and unrelenting. And there's no inventory. So the price, it's not like other things. It's going up. That's what's happening.
Well, the price is going up. So speak more towards the value for shareholders. Specifically, how are you going to create more value for shareholders? Talk about some catalysts along the way for that.
Yeah, first, very near term, we get the word out, just starting with you, really, and this presentation. We're going to start marketing. So once the market understands, and analysts and sophisticated investors, we already have some that have piled in, they're getting involved. Once they understand our metrics, we far surpass our peers. We have big historical uranium numbers. We have really exciting exploration potential that will get digested, and then we'll end up with a big increase in our share price. That's really what's happening near term. Longer term, we just have to prove up our historic numbers. That results in a big jump in our value. Those are two things that are coming. More also, but two key things.
And with that said, are you raising money? And how much do you need to raise?
So we keep things very tight. You can see we only have 34.2 million shares out. We like to raise small amounts because we can, and we invest our own money. But next time out, we're probably going to raise in the $3 to $5 million range, and maybe beyond. We're going to have to resist because there's quite a bit of demand to invest from the banker's side. Uranium is hot, somewhere in that range, likely.
That's a good problem to have. Talk a little bit about your main risks to your business and how are you mitigating them?
Yeah, so risks. So there's always geological risk in mining. That's the, nature is random, sort of. And so you just don't know for sure. You could be seeing a lot of uranium and then all of a sudden maybe not. Now, that has been mitigated by past work, that big investment by other companies. And we mitigate that with technology. We mitigate it with sophisticated geophysics, et cetera. So that's geological risk. There's geopolitical risk. What if Niger doesn't stabilize like it always has in the past? It'll stabilize. What if it doesn't happen as quickly as we hope it will? Those are some risks. Then fundamentally, there's always, the world is full of surprises in the mining space. You don't know what's going to happen. Politics, other things, but it's looking very good right now. We're downside protected because we have this base of a historical uranium resource, unlike almost all the other juniors.
Right. We'll go a little bit deeper into that. You touched upon the Copper Mountain area. Tell us a little bit more about your plan to mine it.
Oh, well, so this is the great thing. When we acquired all this historic data, we acquired Union Pacific Railway's, effectively their mine plan for our area. They identified the uranium, it's in the ground. They did an analysis of how they could recover it. Effectively, if we want to, with a bit of prep work, we have a good chance of going in and doing an open pit mine and then separating the uranium by way of leach. So that is an option for us, and we're going to be considering it. Yeah.
And when it comes to other companies in the uranium sector, what are some companies you have your eye on and maybe our investors should be looking at?
So I think our company is the best on a risk-reward basis. I think it's very exciting. But if you're a little more conservative, I personally like a company called Denison Mines. It's a big Canadian company. It's really strong management, very good assets. That's more conservative, big company kind of investment. And if you want to be a little more aggressive, a junior would be Premier American. The symbol is PUR. I like them. They've got good assets. They have one asset in Wyoming, not far from us, but they have extremely strong management, very smart, board of directors and investors. Some of their investors are very sophisticated too. So, in case your viewers are looking for other alternatives, those are two good companies also.
Well, thank you for that. Tom, let's spend our last few moments talking about Myriad and what you want our investors to know about. Some closing remarks.
Oh, perfect. So I really believe that Myriad is special because we are not a junior that is just looking for some uranium numbers to put a post on the board and do some promotion, try to make the wheel turn. We have a big historical resource in Wyoming. That's the top jurisdiction in the world. We have great exploration upside, and we don't have very many shares outstanding. This combination, please compare us. We're due for a big re-rate, a big up. In my view, we're worth an order of magnitude at least more than we're at now, and that's coming. So that's what I want to say about Myriad. Take a look. 46% insider ownership, and I keep buying. So take a look.
Well, what a time to be in your sector. Really fascinating. Great presentation. Thank you so much for joining us. We would love to follow you along in your journey in the future.
Thanks, Anna. Thanks for having me.
All right, everyone, stay with us. We'll be right back with our next presenter.